As the investigation into the killing game continued, the authorities uncovered more and more evidence of the dark website's operations. They discovered that the collector had been the ringleader of the group, using his expertise in computers to create the site and recruit members from around the world. The site had been active for years, with members participating in a sick game of one-upmanship, trying to outdo each other in the number of victims they claimed. The victims ranged from young children to elderly individuals, with no discernible pattern or motive for the killings. As the authorities delved deeper into the site's operations, they began to see a pattern emerging. Many of the members were from affluent backgrounds, with no history of criminal behavior. It seemed that they were drawn to the site as a way of exerting power and control over others, a way of satisfying their own twisted desires for violence and domination. The authorities worked tirelessly to shut down the site and track down the members of the group. They coordinated with law enforcement agencies around the world, and with the help of computer experts, they were able to trace the site's operations to a network of servers located in several different countries. One by one, the members of the killing game were tracked down and arrested. Some went quietly, while others put up a fight, determined to keep their sick game going. But in the end, they all met the same fate: sentenced to life in prison or executed for their crimes. But there was one member of the group who remained elusive, a shadowy figure known only as the Collector. He was the mastermind behind the site, the one who had recruited the other members and orchestrated their twisted game. And he remained at large, taunting the authorities with cryptic messages and leaving behind tantalizing clues to his whereabouts. The authorities knew that they had to catch the Collector before he could do any more damage, but he seemed to be always one step ahead of them. They combed through his online activity, trying to find any clues that might lead them to his location. But he was too clever, too elusive, always slipping through their grasp at the last moment. The hunt for the Collector became an obsession for the authorities, as they worked around the clock to bring him to justice. But he remained a shadowy figure, haunting their every move and leaving them to wonder if they would ever catch him. Despite their best efforts, the authorities were unable to track down the Collector. He seemed to have vanished into thin air, leaving no trace of his whereabouts. The case went cold, and the world slowly moved on, forgetting the horrors of the killing game and the twisted individuals behind it. But for one man, the nightmare was far from over. John, one of the survivors of the killing game, had been living in constant fear ever since he had testified against the other members of the group. He knew that the Collector was still out there, somewhere, waiting for his chance to strike. John had moved to a new city, changed his name, and tried to forget the past, but it was always there, lurking in the shadows, waiting to consume him. He had developed a severe case of paranoia, never leaving his home without a weapon and constantly looking over his shoulder. One day, while on a walk in the park, John saw something that made his blood run cold. Across the way, he saw a man watching him, a man with the same cold, calculating eyes as the Collector. John froze, his heart pounding in his chest, as he watched the man approach him. But to John's surprise, the man walked right past him, not even acknowledging his presence. John watched as the man disappeared into the crowd, leaving him to wonder if he had imagined the whole thing. Over the next few days, John became increasingly paranoid, convinced that the Collector was closing in on him. He spent his days locked inside his apartment, watching the news and scouring the internet for any clues that might lead him to the elusive killer. But as the days turned into weeks, and the weeks turned into months, nothing happened. The collector remained a mystery, and John began to wonder if he was losing his mind. One day, while browsing the internet, John stumbled upon a message board dedicated to the killing game. He watched in horror as the members of the group praised the collector for his genius and lamented his disappearance. But then he saw something that made his blood run cold. One of the members had posted a message claiming to have seen the collector in a city nearby. The message included a picture of the man, and John immediately recognized him as the same man he had seen in the park. John knew that he had to act fast. He contacted the authorities and gave them the information he had, hoping that it would be enough to catch the collector once and for all. A few days later, the authorities tracked down the man in the picture, and to everyone's surprise, it turned out to be a case of mistaken identity. The man was a harmless accountant, with no connection to the killing game or the collector. John was left to wonder if he had imagined the whole thing, or if his paranoia had finally gotten the best of him. But one thing was certain: he would never be able to forget the horrors of the killing game or the twisted individuals who had been a part of it.